For Northwestern State head coach Blaine McCorkle, post-game against UIW, coach, we'll start with an opening statement and get into questions.
Yeah, well, first of all, congratulations to UIW, Coach Killo. They've got an extremely talented and established football team and program. That's a team that they've won it for the last 7 years, I think 18, 21, 22, and 24, something like that. And that's who they are. They're not having the record that they probably want to have this year. Talked to Coach Killo a little bit before, and he was kind of joking about, going through some new things. I said, well, welcome to the club, what they've kind of seen this year, I think, is a victim of their own success with the portal. They lost a lot of guys to the portal off last year's team that went to the quarterfinals. They brought in just as equal talent, but it takes some time for that to gel, and they're starting to gel. They upset Lamar last week. It's not really an upset, I don't think, and he said the same thing. Then they played well today. So even though they're not going to be in contention or in the playoffs this year, they're still just as good as anybody in the country. So I give them a lot of credit for that. We, I think, played hard. I think we continue to play hard. I think our kids keep fighting. Kind of evidence in that last drive of the game where we just ran the ball and got a pile of first downs, and we were able to end it without giving the ball back to get another score. Get a 4th and 1 at the end of the game, and I look up and it's all those freshmen there fighting it out to get a 4th and 1. So I'm very proud of that. I think in moments our defense played well. I think in moments we'll probably see on film that we stopped the run a little bit better than we have in moments, even though we gave them a couple big ones. We've still got to tackle better. Technically, we're not tackling well at the second and third level. We're trying to knock people down with our shoulders instead of throwing your chest on it, wrapping up and run your feet. And we work on it all the time. It's something that we've got to get better at. I do think I without getting into the weeds too much, have some reasons, some answers for why some of that stuff's happened, and those things are fixable down the road. It's a little bit of a mindset deal, but it's kind of how the game played out. 38-3 is not a good score. Last time they came in here, it was 66-7. So I guess is that progress? Maybe. We had some things happen throughout the course of the game that people wouldn't recognize that I was not pleased with. And they were reminiscent of a different day and time here, and that will not happen under my watch, and those things will get fixed immediately because we're never going to allow our program to go back to that dark and miserable place. Okay, we're going to be a team, we're going to be united, we're going to love each other, and we're going to keep moving forward. So those are some things culturally that we will address immediately and get handled, and I think we can. I think we've got a group of really young, really passionate, hardworking kids, and I appreciate them for that.
Talked about this team's fight throughout the year. Second half was indicative of that. You're still, you're down, but you started with a goal, with a red zone stop, a 4th down stop inside the 10, not just the upper red zone, the lower red zone, but continuing to fight, and it looked like some of the penalties that you and I talked about at halftime got cleaned up in the second half.
They did. Yeah, the first drive of the game, we had 2 penalties right off the bat, a face mask, and I forget what the other one was. I think you just said it. That gave them first downs and kept their drive alive. And against a team like that, you absolutely can't do that. We've been pretty good all year with our penalty numbers. We've kept them at bay pretty good. We've stayed in the top half, third. I haven't looked at it in a little bit in penalties. But what's interesting is we're staying at the top of the conference in penalties against, except for McNeese last week. They did not have a single one in the game, which I've never seen that. But yeah, those are things that you've got to clean up. And when you play a really talented team like UIW, those things will come back and bite you for sure.
Ty Moore back in the lineup kind of showed what he could do. And again, for this team, we talked about the red zone defense, red zone offense. You have to convert those opportunities. Yeah. You've mentioned time and again, the margin of error is so slim. When you have those, you can't not convert, and you certainly can't go backward in the red zone.
Yeah. The last few weeks we've gotten ourselves down there close and been unable to finish the drive and put the ball in the end zone. And we've tried to approach that a couple different ways in style of play, be it get big and try to knock it in or spread it out and then do some different things. But when you get down there, the game definitely changes. And regardless of if you want to lighten the box or load the box up, when you get down there, the game gets really, really physical. And that's where we're getting exposed a little bit just with size and strength, even in changing style of play when you get down there. So we got to just keep working and figure it out and try to find answers because we're finding ourselves down there and not coming away with points, and then we can't do that. The idea is to score more points than the other team. If you can't finish a drive, that's a problem. You mentioned Ty Moore being back. I appreciate what he did. He loves this team as much as anybody, and it was good to have him back. Myon Hicks was back too, and he found some hard yards in there. He was able to grind out a couple. I think he got a couple first downs for us. So it was good to have both of those older players back in there to help us out a little bit.
One guy that's not an old guy, but you talked about with the defense, the times it stood up. Keyshawn Reed's name got called a bit. And Kamari and Ivory, from a depth piece on the defensive line, those two guys, thought Preston Hickey, again, had those moments. Hickey may have had his best series of the year when they went 3 and out.
Yeah, he did. Preston Hickey has the ability at times to be a really good player. We're glad he's here. He's been a good addition for us. And then Keyshawn and Kamari, and both two of our really old sophomores in there plugging away and fighting and doing a good job. And I think those two guys have really, really good futures ahead of them. I like what they're doing. We've kind of talked a little bit about how we've had to change our style of play on defense because of some depth issues in the defensive line. But Keyshawn Reed is tailor-made for what we want our defense to be. He's the guy that when we're able to hopefully fill some holes in the offseason and go back to our base defense, he'll excel. He'll only get better there as he goes.
Coach, as always, appreciate your time.
Thank you.